I have noticed that the most successful agents do two things. One is that their schedule is so booked that they have very little time.
Yeah.
And number two is that they wear white gloves when they're helping their clients. What is something that you do that's extra service to give a beneficial experience for your client?
Sure. For me, it's always been about
I am so excited, Nick.
this should be interesting, to say the least. Wayzata.
Thank you. Why is that?
Yeah, it's mispronounced all the time, so don't.
So how many lakes, as we pass one right now, how many lakes are here?
Just in the Twin Cities area, or in the state of Minnesota? Because if you've been living under a rock, it's the land of 10,000 lakes.
Yes.
But in the Twin Cities metro, honestly, I don't even know what the number is. Right now, we're kind of passing over a bay of Lake Minnetonka, and this is the largest lake in the Twin Cities metro. It also commands the highest dollar amount in terms of properties.
Any celebrity you can help find a home here in the Twin Cities western suburbs?
Exceptional question. Any celebrity, who would it be? Well, I'm going to remove all the locals. I'm going to remove anybody deceased. So if I were to pick anybody, the man just signed the richest deal of any non-quarterback in the NFL. His name is Justin Jefferson. Plays for the Vikings. And I have a feeling he'd probably come to the western suburbs if he had the choice.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, who doesn't want to live on the lake? Who knows, right?
Who knows?
But, if he's out there and he's looking, I'm happy to help. I don't know if he would necessarily be attracted to this particular trend because you're seeing a lot of big open windows, right? Big, like the ability, accordion windows that open up to an outdoor space. You're going, so tons of natural light. Mm-hmm. The ability to kind of move your indoor space to your outdoor space.
Right.
Seeing more and more of that. And that is just conducive to how we live here, right? Because people want that outdoor space and being able to kind of flow from in to out. Now, he's a public figure, and so, level of privacy maybe. Mm-hmm. However, when you're sitting on, typically if we're talking about being on the lake, well, that's usually facing the lake, so there's plenty of privacy in that regard.
Collaborative effort has to go in to make somebody successful. Who would you say is a part of your collaborative effort?
But I would say my first brokerage really raised me well. They taught me a lot about contracts and knowing the ins and outs of the business itself. And then my current brokerage, when I made the move to them, it was mostly just about what their brand could bring to my business. And without having me to build my own brand, because as I'm sure you're well aware, that can be really challenging.
It's time consuming.
It's time consuming. And the effort that it goes into building a brand, well, that's all fine and great. But if you can leverage one that's already really well established and frankly deals with, pretty impressive properties already, I'll just join forces with them.
And on a global scale, which,
for sure,
as you mentioned before, we got some global identities here in the city.
No question. And having a referral network is a huge win.
Right. How does technology impact that strategy? How does it help your communication?
Incredibly important. Not only does our MLS have partnerships with a lot of really great kind of third-party businesses in which we can do a lot of research right off the bat. say, for example, you have a new listing and you want to get just an idea of what the value looks like. Now, I don't always necessarily trust online valuations, so I always like to drive the neighborhood, take a look before I even enter the home to get an idea of what I'm going to be walking into.
We're not just Zillow guessing.
No, of course not. But look, there is some value in it.
Yes.
It shouldn't be your only. If you're going to be doing online valuations, that shouldn't be the one that's, the gospel.
Right.
You have to cross-reference it with a lot of different comps and what's going on in the neighborhood, as well as what the trends are in the market. Mm-hmm. So, gosh, tech is so expansive now, from, basic, graphic design work that you can do for your listings.
Yeah.
To auto dialers and things of that nature. Even, that kind of old school mentality of prospecting for your client, because, frankly, it still works. Mm-hmm. So while technology is wonderful in what it can do for you, I still think traditional applications are really important.
Definitely. I think what will be interesting as we step into this tech forward, universe, people very focused on how to save time will always be a factor, but I think people like working with people, and that's not going to go anywhere. But also, the computer needs to be operated by a person at the end of the day. It
does, and there's a lot of discussion on what this is going to look like down the road for the average consumer looking to buy and sell their home. Will there be a tech company that comes in which you can just do it yourself?
Right, like Carvana.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm guessing there will be something. There's going to be a lot of hoops to jump through, but something's going to pop up in which that will happen eventually. That being said, the fiduciary duties that, a realtor has to their client is what kind of keeps everybody honest.
Right.
And what fiduciary duties does a technology company have to you, the consumer? And
that's a good question to ponder on.
Right, and I think that's going to be really important down the road. The best that I can do is, if it's going to bring you joy, and as long as you're going to be staying in that home for, just for argument's sake, say 5+ years, you should be just fine. The economic downturn in 2008 and 2009 is still burned into people's brains, and they don't want to get caught upside down on their home.
Right.
So the nice thing is, now we have such low inventory. I don't think that's really going to be happening for quite some time. That being said, to answer your question, for me, it's more about, is this going to bring you joy? Can you see yourself living here long term? And if so, well, then now we're going to start looking into the value, right? Do the comps support the sale price? What's it going to cost you to upgrade this kitchen or this bathroom, or what kind of landscaping do you want to do? Okay, well, that all has to be taken into account. And then, can the neighborhood that they're buying in support the improvements that they're going to do on that particular property?
Right.
Because that's where you don't want to buy the most expensive home and then pour money into it. Not that you'll get caught upside down, but you might be forced to stay in that home longer than if something were to go sideways on you.
Right. And also, interesting that you mentioned inventory is low, so we're looking at a competitive market right now?
Absolutely.
What is the average day on market right now?
We're probably right around 44
days?
Yeah.
Does that make it difficult for a buyer coming into town that they need to act fast, or is there still time to kind of sit?
It depends on which price range they're searching. Really, without drawing, making kind of a generalization, you're under, say, $400,000 in terms of your budget, you're going to have to make quick decisions.
Right.
You're going to have to know what you want, and you're going to have to, jump on something if you see something you like. Because if you like it, chances are somebody else does. That being said, I think there is a soft pocket in the Twin Cities market that sits around between $800,000 and $1.1 million. So if you're a buyer in that range, you do have some flexibility.
Okay.
Again, will depend on, if you're looking at particular school districts, or if you're looking at, specific neighborhoods. But generally speaking, that's a little bit softer, in which case you'll have some time to kind of figure out what you actually like about these properties and can kind of decipher what's going to fit best.
Right. And then you mentioned school districts.
Yeah.
What school district tends to draw in the crowd?
Well, we are in one of probably about 4 that sit kind of at the top. And the Wayzata school district is, in my experience, has been the top dog
Okay.
In terms
Yes.
of people and in terms of its desirability. They're also just on the cusp of the Minnetonka School District, also highly desirable. So, and then there's Edina, Eden Prairie, top ones on the west side.
Amazing. Once you join the community, what are some big things that maybe an out-of-towner wouldn't expect?
The interesting thing about Minnesota is that almost every town has a summer festival in the Twin Cities and even greater Minnesota. There's some kind of thing that goes on, and it's usually week long, and they've got maybe a small carnival, or then they have events or a parade or things like that. So depending on which community you live in, you're going to have at least something to do in the summer. I think the best that any realtor can do is to provide as much information as possible so that the client can make the decision that best suits their needs. It's not my money to spend. And frankly, if it's a listing, I'm really there to market it the best way I can and get the most eyes on it. But the owner, they want to sell it for whatever they want to sell it for. It's their property, right? So
Right.
They get to call the shots. I just do my best and try to guide them and give them the most information that will best, that's hopefully best for their needs. But having marketing materials that are going to get the most amount of eyes on the property is really important to me. And when it comes down to do good business with your client's best interests at heart, that they're going to call you the next time they need you. And that's really that's the name of the game.
Yeah, name of the game. And if you're thinking to yourself, Nick is so well spoken, well, this is not his first time on camera. He is a YouTube creator in his own right. And so whenever I was exploring, there was a lot of content there. I was very impressed. What has it been like for you juggling your time, doing, life, work, and also content creation for the benefit of your clients?
When you get into content creation of any kind, it's a bumpy ride at the beginning. And the number one thing is, getting over yourself and putting yourself on camera, right? This is how we sound and this is how we look, so just do it. Just do it and things will work out. But what you'll start to realize is that sound matters and editing matters, and there's so many things that go into it, and that can be very time consuming. So when I first started it, I just thought, well, I'm going to make this one, I'm going to make a commitment. I'm going to do this one thing. And it took probably 90 days before I heard my first phone call.
Nice.
From it. And frankly, I almost cried because I was getting really frustrated, because you're putting out this content and you're getting views and you're getting, right? It's getting to people, but you don't know who's watching it. You don't know who is even interested in this, right? But there's somebody. Mm-hmm. So when you tell somebody to call you and they finally call you, well, that's kind of a big deal, right? I mean,
kind of magical.
It's exciting, and you're kind of thrown back by it. But when it comes down to it, it's time blocking your day, adhering to your schedule. So my goal is to produce content once a week and then split that up over the course of the week, whether that's doing one long form video and then chopping it up into small bits that I can then post on shorter form platforms, or even taking the transcript and turning it into a blog, or chopping it up and turning it into tweets. You can reuse you can reuse so much content, especially if you're doing evergreen stuff. Like, what does a purchase agreement look like? Boring, but it's evergreen, right? My most popular video is, what is winter like in Minnesota, right? Because that's when people are, they're researching moving to Minnesota.
Their one fear if they're a Texan.
They have, yeah, absolutely, right? So, what is winter like? And coincidentally, I was able to, the day I intended on filming was a snowstorm out my front door. So I just walked down the street filming myself in the opening and getting just pelted in the face with snow. And it was ridiculous, but I think that's probably why people watch. Or at least that's why they continue to watch. I don't know if that's why, but...
Have you seen, I won't do it to you, but have you seen the viral video going live right now? It kind of goes into that play where you're getting pelted by snow. You're like, this isn't the best look. I'm not polished. I'm getting pelted by snow. And this current trend... told my Gen Z editor to edit a video for me, and it's only him making all the noises that you would want to edit out. And that's it. What is your aspect of internet culture? Why do you think things like that do well over the ones that are more polished and professional?
Raw tends to get people's attention, right? And the screw-ups, I mean, blooper videos have been popular
Forever.
I mean, they did a whole TV show. They still do it. America's Funniest Videos.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And it can be anywhere from somebody getting hit in the groin to, a baby saying the darndest thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that will always be a cultural, attractive thing for people to kind of watch. And so I actually did an outtake video where I was about to start doing a community video of Wayzata, and as I started in, I was about 2 sentences in when, I don't know what kind of car, it was like a Dodge Charger, just loud. It peeled out of the parking lot, and I just went, but I was like, I watched it, I'm like, hey, that was kind of funny, so I just put like a funny sound over the top of it and posted that. And it got a ton of likes, and people were, oh my God, that's hilarious, and because most of my friends and my family and my colleagues know that I do these videos, and so they get a kick out of it, and they follow me and what have you. So now I think there's a small caveat when you start getting into really high-end properties. You have to present yourself as a professional. You can't just go in with a sweatshirt and jeans and flip-flops or whatever, right? But telling people exactly, just straight shooter, tell them how it is, and not really sugarcoating, I think that goes a long way into building trust. And this game is about knowing you, liking you, trusting you, right? Knowing that you're going to be the professional to help them. That includes, the fact that there are some that still don't do professional photographs in a home, it guts, for lack of a better term, to take their own photos and not really do the property its best light. Put it in its best light, including which video walkthrough. And I'm not talking about slideshows. I'm talking about a real video walkthrough of the property. Drone footage.
Drones look so good online.
Showing the home, even if it's really high end, doing something at that golden hour towards dusk, right?
The different lighting.
Yeah, absolutely. Showing the features of the home in a way that people are actually going to use them, or finding that one feature of the home and really hammering on it until like this is the star. Yeah. Right? Because every home has like a star. Yeah. Right? Whether it's the kitchen or it could be the lower level like entertainment space, it could be, you name it. But making sure that you're doing those things, and personally, I like to do my own walkthrough videos, but I know not every agent is equipped or has maybe the experience or feels comfortable doing it. Well, get somebody who's comfortable doing it. Right. If you can't do it yourself. But I'm always really surprised that people don't do everything possible to market the home, especially on the high end, whether it's even, it could just be a small booklet of what are the local angles, where's the best place to get Chinese food. Yeah. Something cool like that. Definitely. And I'm going to ask you a question, but you can say pass if you want to. This one's a little bit edgy. Okay. I would say that we are heading into the era of photography entering a new conversational tone that it's never been in before. It's been, if you have a picture, it's real. If you have an image, it happened. And so with this shift of editorial ease that technology is bringing us to, how do you see that affecting marketing? I will say right off the bat, when it comes to marketing a property, especially with our MLS and our Department of Commerce, what they will focus on is making sure that you tell them that this has been digitally staged, right? If you are going to enhance a photograph or an image of a property or a room in a property, you do have to disclose that you've done something to it. Because if they find out otherwise, that's no good. When it comes to maybe artistic renderings, obviously you want to disclose that kind of stuff. But I think the ability to manipulate images and even create them just from a description. Yeah, that's the world we're entering. Yeah, where I can just type, man walking a dog, right, and put it on, slip it onto another image, I think because that exists, there's going to be less trust.
Right.
And regardless of the industry and the rules and regulations that surround it, that's not necessarily common knowledge to the customer or the consumer. And so it's now landed on me to educate them on that.
Yes.
That's where you've given me an idea, a video.
You should.
On imagery in, your listing or when you're buying a house and what you're looking at.
This is a worst case scenario in my head, but I did think of it as we were talking about description can make a photo.
Yeah.
And I would say that I have myself made images of just interior homes for my website because I want stock image photos that I can attract agents.
Right.
Attract agents to my profile with, but that's on the website. So whenever I'm looking at that's a creation that's possible by me, and somebody that is a little bit criminal might have more time than I do, and you're dealing with professionals who don't have time and are ready to make an investment because they've worked hard,
right?
They're not probably keeping up with this. So with the value that you also bring as a provider of service during this big investment shift, I feel like there could be a time, worst case scenario, where people might even make fake listings where they look so real. And that the whole house is fake. This thing doesn't even exist.
Yeah.
And so you doing due diligence of that research can help a client from just walking through.
Yeah. Well, and of course, because you can do a for sale by owner.
Right.
Somebody could create a scam, right? And try and sell somebody on a home that, again, does not exist. But that being said, this is again why the fiduciary aspect of what we do is so important, because now you can actually hire somebody who's going to go out and do the kind of the legwork for you,
right,
to find that property that you're looking for. Find a home that has the features. I found a couple of properties that were just listed on, say, Craigslist, and they weren't actually for sale.
Right.
They were ripped from the MLS, and somebody said, hey, and it does, this is for sale or this is for rent. Actually, rentals are the big culprit.
Thanks. I definitely see that being something to keep an eye out for, but I definitely think that it sounds like if your clients would be in safe hands with you.
Well, I like to believe so, but again, you bring up an interesting point, because we are moving into an area that is a little ambiguous. The tough part is laws are always behind the technology and the advancement and the progression of said tech. And so until we have laws that will protect the consumer, it's kind of hard to tell or predict what's on the horizon for them.
Now, kind of still digging into this little AI moment that the world is having. Yeah. Have you used ChatGPT yourself?
I have.
And whenever you're using it as a business professional, how do you like to utilize it?
I'm a big proponent of taking something and maybe like a longer post or something that maybe I've written that's a bit wordy, and popping it in and asking them to rephrase it, or asking for quick descriptions. Well, I know that I don't want to use boilerplate stuff that just gets popped out, because most likely it's going to be used, somebody else is going to be using kind of the similar stuff, right? They're not going to be getting, chat is not going to get creative when you ask for a description of Wayzata, Minnesota. Right? They're gonna rip the stuff that pulls from the internet.
At a
which
mass
is fine.
Scale. Yeah.
Yeah, which is totally fine. But that being said, you want to add in kind of your own opinions or your tone of voice at the very least, right? So something that will draw people to you as opposed to just, the basics. That being said, it's a huge time saver. Absolutely. You could sit there for hours trying to
make a page not blank.
Gosh, it's a nightmare.
Well, speaking of drawing in, this little town has drawn me in, and we're going to go explore it a little bit. Is that right?
We are. We're actually in downtown Wayzata, and I'm going to try and find a parking spot if possible, but
it looked very poppin'. I saw some people with some hats. Is there a brunch? Is there a wine community here? What is the big...
Right. So this strip we're right in Wayzata Bay, and this main street here, Lake Street, is just kind of the main strip. So you've got multiple restaurants, you've got multiple storefronts in which, whether it's interior decorating, you've got the Muni, which is just a little municipal a bar and grill that is highly popular. Oh, okay. So yeah, it's pretty much anything that you'd want to grab in terms of food and beverage, and it's just a nice little walk because you're right in front of the lake here.
I am so excited to check it out.
Yeah, it should be fun.
Are we walking towards the lake?
We are walking towards the lake. So the one thing that I get from people that have either recently moved or when I do have, say, an out-of-town buyer that when they visit downtown Wayzata for the first time, they really get thrown for a loop as if, like, what? Like, because this just doesn't exist anywhere else in the Twin Cities. Right? This kind of view of the lake, along with kind of these small shops, and it has a small town feel and resort town. It's why it's so desirable. It's why you get such, high price point homes, and it's pretty chill out here, as you can tell.
Yeah.
And so, a wild kind of encounter doesn't happen really all that often, but maybe I'm just the lucky one.
Like we're really close.
Yeah,
oh my gosh! Okay. So, Nick, it's been such a great time.
Yeah, it's
exploring
awesome.
the town, and I just have to say, with your time here, what is the legacy in your career that you hope to leave?
I would like my clients to know that I did what I was supposed to do and that they always felt that I had their best interests at heart.
What would you say the legacy Wayzata has left on you?
Well, it's something that when you grow up living in the Twin Cities area, there's a lot of spots that you kind of take for granted. And then when I've had clients that have come in and they talk about how they get wowed by it, it reinvigorates you a little bit to appreciate the coolness that is, that downtown Wayzata area, for example. Just appreciating the fact that we've got some really neat stuff here, and I got to start utilizing it more.
I think you are utilizing all your avenues, whether it be through data, through target marketing, through marketing, presentation creatively and polishedly. And if you're looking in Wayzata, Minnesota, Nick Sundahl is a great option, and I think that this agent will work hard for you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Speaking of needing to know, I have a lot of cousins here. Yep, and there it goes.
Okay.
There it is. We like that it's at the beginning though.
Okay.
Versus the end.